So we are finally here. It is game day. We got NBA Finals, game one tonight. Heat, Denver Nuggets, Miami making their seventh all-time appearance in the NBA Finals. Second time in the last 4 years. I mean, just an incredible stretch of basketball that we're in right now, which is so much fun. Joining us here, NBA on ESPN Radio, NBA Finals. He's got your call, of course, the great Marc Kestecher here with us. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. You are out there, of course, in Denver in what is probably going to be a wild atmosphere tonight, right? First time the Denver Nuggets have ever been in the NBA Finals, Marc.
Jonathan, I was privileged to be on the Western Conference Finals call, which was a lot shorter than I anticipated in the 4-game sweep over the Lakers. And the first 2 games in Denver, the atmosphere was charged. They've waited a long time for this. I don't come to Denver often, so I didn't know the pecking order of sports. Clearly, the Denver Broncos are number 1 in this town, in this region. The Colorado Avalanche have only been here for a few decades, but they're clearly number 2 with all their success. And then you have the Nuggets, who've been around a long time, who competed when they entered at the merger, had some hot spots in the 80s, the George Karl, Carmelo Anthony teams in 2009, and then the resurgence in the bubble, which Miami Heat fans know well about, and then injuries, and then here they come with Nikola Jokic at his full powers right now, a 2-time MVP, and I think fans are pretty pumped for this opportunity, and they're going to be learning about the Miami Heat, certainly, because I think most people out here and many people across the country thought when the East went to 7 and Game 7 was in Boston that the Celtics were going to prevail, and as we all know, it was not even close.
Marc, Jokic has to be one of the all-time most unbelievable greatest players in the league, right? I mean, a second-round pick. He was essentially the backup to Yusuf Nurkic, who they then let go, to Portland when it looked like Jokic was coming along. I mean, can we remember a guy who you could make the case is the best player in the league, is a multi-time MVP, a more unlikely character than Jokic?
When you say that, I can't imagine, because so many teams passed on him. I think he was 41. Legendarily, he was drafted while ESPN was in a Taco Bell commercial. Yep. Makes it even better. You think of teams like the Spurs, who always have the draft and stash Europeans, and he escaped everybody. And as you said, when he got to Denver, he wasn't even the starter, and here he is. I can't think of anybody else who has this story, because you think of Giannis, who was also under the radar, but still was a, mid-first round pick. Kawhi Leonard, same kind of thing, where nobody knew what he could be, but nothing at number 41. And to do what he's doing, he's unlike anything we've seen at his size, at his passing ability, and he's getting better. That's the scary part. And that's what's interesting, because you guys know Eric Spoelstra will throw every defense at them. They'll make adjustments that you would imagine Denver hasn't seen at some point during this series. And Jokic has been able to figure it all out. Will he be able to figure it out in their great opportunity to win a championship? We'll find out. But the original burst of your question, I can't think of anybody in the league who's come from where he's come to the heights he's now at.
Marc, this isn't tangible stuff, but I feel like it's the Heat's time. It feels like them. And I believe they've gone through the hurt. They lost in 2020, Game 7 last year in the Eastern Finals. I believe that these teams have to, historically in this league, teams go through the heartbreak before they win the whole thing. I feel like it's the Heat's time. The Nuggets haven't gone through that heartbreak necessarily. Do you believe in that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do think there are levels. We've seen it in the end. We've seen it across all sports, but in the NBA, you always remember the Bulls trying to get past the Pistons. There's all stories of teams that had to make their way through. And for Miami, and I've said this now for the last 8 weeks, I just haven't been able to put my finger on who the Heat are, what they are. I know they had injuries, but I just couldn't place how they could win any of their series, especially when you watch, the play and you're like, okay, we're going nowhere. And yet it shouldn't shock anybody. The resolve that this team has, I think you're right. I mean, they take their cue from their head coach. They take their cue from the best player, Jimmy Butler. Every time you think there's no way that they can take on a team and take them out, you're wrong. And I would say the same thing about Denver. Right now, when we were down to 4 teams in the conference finals, Denver by far had the best talent on the roster. You could throw Boston number 2, you probably throw Lakers number 3, and Miami inevitably is going to be number 4. But then they go out and show you that they're the sum of their parts and not just, great individual talent. So even though they look a little bit overmatched in that, how are they going to defend Jokic? They're much smaller than Denver is. They're going to find ways, and they're going to shock me and probably a lot of doubters along the way who think I think most of us feel at this point they're going to give Denver a good tussle. I don't know what the numbers are in the so-called experts who are picking either Denver or Miami. I know that the Miami folks in the organization took great glee at my company giving them a 3% chance to win the Eastern Conference Finals, and I believe it's been bumped up to like 11 or 12%.
Yeah, so the Nuggets are in big trouble. We have an 8% more chance than last time. Nuggets are in big trouble, Mark.
Well, game one's going to be interesting tonight because neither team has trailed in any of these series so far. Miami's won all their game ones on the road. Denver has pretty much had their way with all of their competition so far, and Denver ends up with home court advantage. But we know that hasn't meant much to Miami. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these matchups go. If they can slow up Jokic a little bit, make his life a little difficult. I think the Lakers did a good job adjusting late in the series, forcing other guys to beat them, which they eventually did. I want to see if Miami can have that same success against the Joker.
What do you make of the layoff for Denver? I mean, the Heat got an extra day because they wrapped on Monday night. What do you make of the layoff for the Nuggets? Is that good because, hey, you get to heal up a little bit, or does it take you out of rhythm? What do you make of it?
I think in all the years we've all covered sports, we've looked at rest versus rust, and there's got to be something to it. When you're not going full speed for 9 days and you could try to replicate it in practice, it's going to take a little while to get going. And I think, this is my 20th finals, as a studio host, and been fortunate to be on play-by-play the last, this will be number 7. Game 1, first quarter, traditionally, I haven't gone back to the box scores, but they've been messy. Everybody's trying to settle in, and it just is a big mess. And so I think whatever advantage Miami may have with Denver being a little bit rusty for 9 days, you could probably equally say that, the Heat have come off this grueling 7-game series. And although they've been here at altitude for a couple of days, flying in on Monday night, that, there traditionally would be a little lag in their step too. So I think ugly first quarters are tradition in the finals. I think you got a team with no rest, you got a team with 9 days off, and it'll all settle itself out. And hopefully by the second quarter, we got something going.
Mark, I've never been to Colorado, so I don't know what the altitude is like. What do you make of that? Now the Heat, it's not as if they're coming second night of a back-to-back, and then they got to play in the altitude. They'll have been there for a few nights now. They're also going to spend a few more nights because game 2 is then in Denver. So what do you make of the adjusting to the altitude?
I think it's more psychological than physical. I mean, there's no doubt that, if you're training in Denver, I've got folks on our ESPN crew that go out jogging every morning. I could probably stand to do that myself, but there's no way I'm going to do that. And they do talk about the dehydration more so than the thin air and the lack of oxygen. NBA athletes are among the best in any sport in all the world for all the amount of miles they're running over a 48-minute game. So I think, 5,280 feet, certainly it's real, but I do think the psychology of it is even more. I think the most athleticism I'll get today is probably my walk to FedEx to go pick up my truck. Pretty good pace. You're like, why am I out of breath? Oh, it must be the thin air, but probably has nothing to do with it, for a 5-minute walk. So I do think over a 48-minute game, we did notice it, with the Lakers late in the game. Some legs were tired. Now, they were playing extraordinary minutes because we know playoff rotations tighten as the series go higher. So I do think there is something real to it, but If there's any team in the NBA that's conditioned to mind over matter, it's going to be the Miami Heat.
And, with that said, so I want to know how you experienced the end of Game 6 watching, and then the lead up into Game 7 and how you thought it was going to play out. Because, yes, this Heat team is as mentally tough, clearly, as a team can be. They are not afraid. They are not scared of the moment. They don't care where they're playing, home or away. It's very clear. They won 3 out of 4 there in Boston last series. But I was scared to death the 48 hours in between Game 6 and 7. I couldn't comprehend, how can you recover from losing Game 6 the way you lost and then turn around in Game 7? I'm so thankful that I was dead wrong. How did you experience those 2 games?
Yeah, being on the Western Finals, I had a week off, which I never get this time of year. And so my only appointment viewing was games 5, 6, and 7 on the couch like everybody else. And as Jimmy Butler hit those 3 free throws with, I guess they adjusted the clock to 3 seconds remaining. I'm thinking, all right, the Heat are going to make the finals. I better start getting my flights in order. We're going to Denver. I'm not driving to Boston. We're going to Denver. And then obviously the way the game ended up, and you think there's no way, not just the recovery, but in the history of this league, home court advantage, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say that they are the best of all the 4 North American sports. And I always thought it was because the courts are smaller, the crowd's more intense. Maybe it has a little bit of a psychological effect on the officials and the players. And Boston Garden is what it is. And it did not materialize because of clearly the faith that this team had in itself, that it could put Game 6 aside. They have incredible trust in one another. Look, Tatum's injury is what it was. He wasn't the same player. Jaylen Brown was an absolute train wreck in Game 7, and and it was no contest for the Heat, who just hit all the 3-pointers, that they it felt like that they took. And that's the big thing as I move forward into this series, looking at Miami and the blueprint to coming on the road against the team everyone's expecting them to lose to, especially in the beginning of the series, is can they have that same kind of offensive success? That's the one thing I noted on Denver in the short 4-game series of the Western Conference Finals, is they have Jokic and they have Murray, but they have so much more. They have so much scoring. I mean, they're routinely at 115, 120, 125, and those are big numbers. And I know Miami's defense will aim to curtail that, but whatever offense they gained in the East, I think the Milwaukee and the Miami series, those are the blueprints. If they can have that kind of offense, that kind of connectivity, that kind of success at the 3-point line, that's what keeps them in this series, because I don't know how you hold Denver down with all the guys they have.
Is Jimmy Butler a Hall of Famer?
I think he's right on the doorstep now.
It's really close. It's tough.
Regular season, you could probably argue, does he have enough? Postseason is where it, tips. And, the Naismith Hall of Fame is a little different than some of the others, right? It's a lot of contributions to basketball. It's beyond the NBA. It's the college game. It's the women's game. It's the international game. And there's something to be said for guys who come alive after tax day, as I like to call it. When it's April 15th, that's Jimmy time. And he has a chance to put a stamp and a potential invitation to Springfield if he can get a championship here.
Finally, and then I got one final question for you. Are we looking at you're not going to give a prediction. You're calling the games unless you wanted to. I don't expect you to give a prediction. But do you feel like we're in store for a long series here?
My prediction is, my hope is always close games and 7 games. My initial gut feeling is the same one that got me in trouble. It feels like Denver on paper, is in store for 5 or a 6-game series win, but on paper doesn't account for the heart of the Miami Heat and guys who have not been given a chance early in their career, have taken advantage of a chance in a system with Miami that breeds confidence and doesn't let you have a day off. And it's all coming to fruition right now. And we haven't even talked about, maybe Tyler Hero coming back in game 3. Is that bad? If it's good, there's the offense we've been talking about. So I got to figure if Miami's going to win this, they're going to win it in 7 here in Denver. It feels like a 6-game series, and to me, that would favor Denver. But close games and long series, would love to see it.
So Marc Kestecher, ESPN Radio, NBA on ESPN Radio. He's got the call of all the games, the rest of the games now for this season. I know you're a golf guy. I know you play golf. You're probably going to try and get some in there in Denver. I'm not a golf guy. I've been talking about this for a couple of days now on my show. I'm not a golf guy. I regret that I didn't play golf growing up. All my friends play golf, and they played in high school and college. I was playing basketball. I didn't care about golf. I wish I played golf now because I'm a disaster on the basketball court now. So I wish that I played golf. Anyway, a couple days ago, I took my family. We went to Topgolf. It was my first time there. We were awful, but I loved it. It was really fun, okay? Is it possible? Did I strain my hamstring swinging the golf club? Because what I think is my hamstring is killing me. Obviously, I'm doing movements that I haven't done. I used to go to the driving range a few times 25 years ago when I was in high school. So I haven't swung a golf club in 25 years. Mark, I don't know what I'm doing out there. Did I strain my hamstring swinging the golf club?
It is very possible. 2 quick stories for you. One, in the bubble, how did we survive? We called basketball. We ordered in a lot of takeout. Played a lot of golf. PJ Carlissimo, Doris Burke, and I felt like we golfed every day, and we played with every broadcaster from ESPN and Turner. And we forced a couple of guys to get out on the course and play with us. I hope Dave Pash doesn't mind me bringing up his name, but he used to golf a lot in high school and in college and hadn't golfed since then. He was so sore and had pulled so many muscles playing 18 holes with us. So that's one story. And the other, I've been playing golf forever, not a great golfer, but love to get out there, love to compete. And I was on the course in Bristol a few hours before a radio shift that I had, and we were on the 17th green. And golf etiquette, obviously, you don't step in somebody's line on the putting, where their ball is on their way to the hole. So I did like a Zach Randolph 1-inch vertical leap over the ball, and I felt this pop in my calf, and I said, "Who hit a 2-iron? We're on the green. Nobody hit me." I tore a calf muscle playing golf, jumping 1 inch off the earth to get out of somebody's line. So you can do it. If there's a muscle, you can do it in golf. So I have no doubt that you pulled a hamstring.
It's killing me. I've never felt this before. It's killing me.
Golf is a physical sport. Who knew?
Yeah. All right. But we had a great, I was terrible out there, but we had a really good time. I'm going to go back. All right. Anyway, Mark, excellent job. Thank you so much for making time. And hey, look, if it goes into a long series, we get you on again toward the very end. That'd be fun.
Love it. Thanks, Jonathan. Good luck to the Heat.